Holly Rollo, CEO of Surge Strategies. Your new book is coming out. We're going to talk about sailing. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything, all the way from Lake Tahoe. Welcome to Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
Thanks so much, Wes. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, okay, I got to ask you this. I see all these acronyms. GTM, Strategic GTM Advisor. Why are you not a Strategic ABM advisor? Aren't they? Do we need all these acronyms? What's going on?
Well, it is B2B technology, so we like acronyms for every single thing on the planet Earth. I especially like all of the ways that private equity firms kind of judge value, ARR, MRR, EBITDA, like it goes on and on. The list is endless.
Everything. Yeah, military's got acronyms. Everybody has acronyms
Yeah,
now, don't they?
exactly. I
So,
do work with the federal government, and I actually think they're worse
they're
than
terrible.
high tech.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do ask people this because I guess I got out of big corporate America before a lot of this took hold, maybe. And as I peel back account-based marketing, go-to-market strategies, blah, 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 to me, it just seems like common sense. But I guess when you're dealing with larger companies, you need a playbook, right? You need verbiage. You need a common um, parlance. Right? Is that it is just common sense, right? But is it common sense just needs to be codified for big business?
This is a great question because when I started writing this book, I did it because I felt like now that I was on the consulting side, because I spent 30 years on the business side and then came, to kind of consult companies, and CEOs and CROs and CMOs would contact me and they were still asking the same questions. So I was like, why are we still asking the same questions 30 years later that we've always been asking? And to me, one of the biggest hangups for me writing this book is I would put the words on the paper and I'm like, but this is common sense. People kind of know this stuff. And so that was what I kept kind of holding me back from actually getting the book done. And then the more and more I talked to people, and I did a CMO survey across almost 90 B2B CMOs, they're struggling with the same set of problems and go to market. And it's getting worse because of AI and the quick adoption of all of these new technologies that are supposed to accelerate everybody, but some basic foundation isn't done. So when it comes to go to market strategy, this is when the problem becomes much more acute, is when people are trying to adopt new ways of doing things like the digital first customer experience, and they're trying to pile on all these extra tools and resources, but they don't have the foundation right. And so one of the biggest premises of the book is, companies will contact me and they'll say, "Oh, my CMO stinks, like I need a new CMO or I need a new CRO or should I fold them underneath and what am I doing?" I'm like, "Okay, well, what is your strategy?" And they'll say growth. And I'll say, "No, growth is not a strategy. It's an outcome. What are you
Dang!
really trying to accomplish?" And honestly, most of them don't know,
Right.
and this is what's fascinating to me. And the companies I work with are mostly small to mid-sized B2B software companies. So larger companies have whole departments that focus on strategy and like all these things. But when you're small and you're trying to kind of roll with it, it's a very frantic kind of environment. So people are just running to execute because their investors want them to show ARR and MRR and ACV and LTV and all these things, but they aren't thinking about like, what is my strategy to actually get there and focus on the right product market fit. That's one example.
All right, let me pull this up because I saw it this morning. Because this woman was bragging about it on LinkedIn. And she's basically bragging about lying.
What?
She says, we got 389 leads out of 1,889 cold emails. Best part, it was all automated. Here's how we did it. You can too if you follow the steps. We used zapmail.ai to set up our emails. We used Smart Lead to set up warm up plus campaign. We use Prospeo to scrape emails. We use LinkedIn events as a sales trigger. We used Licks to scrape the attendees, use Prospeo to find their emails, to verify the emails. We use Million Verifier to enrich the emails. We use Persona AI. We use this email copy with Spintax. And then they started sending out emails. Hey, can I make a post on your company? I just saw you guys at blank event. We've been using company for our team, have been seeing some great results. Okay, so now she hasn't addressed it because people are saying, did you even use this stuff? Because maybe she bounced it off of a comment. Like I've been a HubSpot partner for 10 years. I could see if somebody goes to inbound, which is actually this week. So I could send a message. Hey, I've been using HubSpot for 10 years and we've been seeing some great results. So maybe I'll give her the benefit of the doubt, but things are so spammy and fake. Like I'm seriously getting angry.
Yeah. This is a mess. I mean, and there's so much chaos going on right now, and it's going to take a few years to sort out because, you know, we've been talking about digital transformation for over a decade, right? Especially when it comes to MarTech, sales tech, and even customer success technology. And so the problem is that fundamentally, I would say 70 to 80% of the B2B tech companies that I work with, this is like a sample of one, but I talk to my peers and it's the same issue, is the fundamentals still aren't solid. So, they're still functioning in silos across marketing, sales, and customer success. They're still creating processes and workflow based on activities and tactics versus a focus on a certain market segment, a focus on how you go to market as one entity for that market segment, a focus on the customer experience and alleviating friction and all the touch points. So because of that, then everybody's adopted their own system. So it may be Salesforce, it may be HubSpot, it may be Gainsight. Those are just examples, right? And then everybody's building tech stacks in silos and then piling on all of these tools to do this and that. But when you look at the operations of the business, it's overcomplicating something that you can solve half the problem just by getting on the same page about what your actual strategy is and the shortest possible means to get to your customers and your prospects as possible. So, rather than building in like all this complicated mess, that is creating a lot of friction even internally because people can't even agree on where the handoff is. And by the way, handoffs I don't really believe in. Where what the action is, what the activity is, like all this attribution nonsense that everybody's kind of talking about. It's like pointless because it really needs to be set up so that the customer is able to have the fastest, most direct line to getting information they need and getting their hands on the product. And so, this AI technology, it's awesome. I use a lot of the tools too that are cool, but you could get lost in the weeds and not really focus on what's important, which is, for a lot of these companies, making sure they're targeting the right customers, making sure that their customers love them, and making sure that they want to continue to buy more. And it's easy to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
And the lines are really blurring. That's the thing with this technology now is, where sales used to B2B technology, when sales used to kind of carry this heavy lifting, it's being done more through digital touch points. So the roles need to be redefined, like who's responsible for expansion, who's responsible for making sure that the customers are converting at the right rate based on an action they need to take, maybe in the product. So the lines are really getting weird. And, there's a lot of internal dynamics that happen as a result if you don't kind of take a step back and reassess what you're really trying to do.
Yeah. So, but this seems It doesn't seem. It is human nature. You know, I've
Yeah.
golfed. I do jujitsu. um, in every sport, you know, in golf, by design, you're supposed to putt the ball 36 times in a typical round of golf. So if you parred every hole, you would putt 36 times. You would hit your driver at most 14 times. Okay, because you have 4 par threes. So at most you would hit your driver 14 times. Realistically, based on the length of the hole and conditions and the shape, you're probably only going to hit your driver 12 times, maybe 10 times. But where does everybody spend their time? At the driving range. $800 new driver trying to smash bombs. Most cannot smash bombs.
Hmm.
And realistically, if you wanted to improve your golf score, if you did nothing but putt, you would score better.
Hmm.
Okay. In jiu-jitsu, we always make the joke, oh, you must be watching YouTube. Some guy comes in, tries something crazy. Like, stop watching YouTube
Yeah.
videos. Do the fundamentals. But the fundamentals are boring. You know, after almost 8 years now, the fundamentals can be boring.
Hmm.
We warm up the exact same way. I go 5-6 days a week. The warm-up's the same.
Hmm.
Jog, shuffle, you know, shrimp back and forth, jumping jacks, push-ups, all kind of ab workout. Okay, now we're ready to drill. But we do those things for a reason.
Hmm.
You know, my instructor, I don't think he's ever beaten me with something fancy,
Yeah. This is so true.
right?
It,
And
yeah.
and not only that, I know his moves now after 8 years.
Right.
He doesn't even hide it. And I see it, I'll defend, he'll do it again. I mean, it'd be like a boxer just jabbing you to death. You're like, I know he's going to jab me. Oh, there's a jab. Oh, there's a jab. Oh, I blocked one. Oh, there's another jab. Like, damn,
Yeah.
there's 3 jabs. Damn it. You know? And nothing fancy. Now
Yeah.
he knows the fancy stuff, but so it's just human nature, right? We get bored
We
or
do.
we
We
feel
do.
inadequate. Like, oh, this other company, they seem to be killing it. But the reality is they're probably lying, stealing, cheating to get some buzz. I
Yeah.
mean, I hate to say it, but
Yeah. Certainly
I'm
the
getting
same.
old. Get off my lawn.
Yeah. The same is true in sailing, like, people buy these new fancy boats and, we have a new boat, so I speak from my own experience too, where you want to add on all the cool stuff, you want the fancy infrared camera and you want this and that. But what's really important is your tactics, like the
Yeah.
fundamentals of how you manage the boat and operate the boat safely. And so it's true. You're absolutely right. It's human nature. And I do think also there's a tendency, I think, by marketing people in general, that they want to, innovate. They want to try new and fancy things. They want to prove their value. And that's just generally a hard part, I think, is part of that function. And so in doing that, and especially because the function itself has become so specialized over the years, that they want to pile on the next thing in that specialty versus saying, wow, I can really add value by looking across the business at how, revenue is attained. And I can work with my peers in sales and in customer success and in products to define new ways to find gains across the business. And so this is what I think we need to encourage our high potential leaders that are coming up to focus on is the big picture. Like, don't lose the forest through the trees, which is a lot of what I see happening. And the other problem I think is in general, executive teams at these tech companies are technologists and they like shiny objects. And so it's appealing, So when you say, oh, shiny object, shiny, everybody's like, oh, this is the greatest thing. But if you want to have a conversation about how do we really build a solid position in the market that nobody else can own and focus and prioritize, that's kind of a boring conversation. That's not as interesting as some of these other things. And that's part of the problem. And so getting back to basics and fundamentals on your segments, your product market fit, your positioning, your aligned go-to-market strategy across all of the functions, It's just that's the biggest gap I see. That's the biggest gap I see by far. And it gets worse because of the frantic nature around looking quarter to quarter always for, being very short-sighted in terms of understanding where the business is going and what needs to happen.
Yeah, that that whole shiny object. I think deep down, and maybe not even deep down. The old is it the Peter principle? We we get we get promoted to the level of our incompetency.
Yeah.
I've said all along. It's like I literally got the name the sales whisperer. I was watching the dog whisperer, September 2006, and I had my laptop on my lap, and he said, "I rehabilitate dogs and train their owners." And I thought, I I
It's so true.
rehabilitate salespeople and train their managers,
Mhm.
right? Because most salespeople have been abused,
Yes.
and most sales managers haven't had training. Most salespeople haven't had training. I say we've had product training, right? Hey,
Right.
here's our new gizmo. It weighs this much. It draws this much power. It's 7% better battery life, 18% brighter screen. Go sell it.
Mhm.
And so there's people running around because fundamentally people hate sales.
I don't, but
I've got it. I've got it here on my desk. Because when I do this in person, every time I do training in person, I'm like, hey, throw out some adjectives. When I say the word salesperson, so here, play along. If I say the word salesperson, give me some adjectives that come to mind.
aggressive, um, uh,
You're in the
focused
right.
on closing,
Yep.
um, um,
Give me one more.
transactional.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in the right vein because when it's a company led thing, everybody wants to put a happy face on it, right? Like optimistic, goal setting. I'm like, come on,
Mm,
that's what you think you're supposed to say. What does the public say when I say used car salesman? So I ask you, what if I say used car salesman? What word comes to mind?
wants to make a deal.
Yeah, but how about pushy? Right?
Oh, okay.
I'll write that on a piece of paper and I'll hide it. Aggressive, right? Transactional, blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
the negative connotation that the general public, nobody, I got 3 grandkids, right? Just got my first granddaughter. We're not well, I am, but others are not holding these little babies and go, I hope you become a salesperson.
Yeah. Well, both my adult kids are in technology, and they're both salespeople,
Yeah. I mean,
and and they're successful at it
yeah,
because they have grit and determination, which I think is actually a pretty good attribute.
for sure. Look,
But
I mean, I love sales, and a good salesperson is one of the most well put together
mm,
people you will
mhm,
meet,
mhm.
right? Because we have to read the room, we
Yes.
have to adjust on the fly, we have to negotiate, we have to persuade, we have to convince, we have to build consensus, right? We have to be focused on the goal. We've got to adjust on the fly, on and on and on. So, um, but typical salespeople are pushy. They take shortcuts. So I literally think these people, what do they call it? Success bias.
Mm,
You know,
mhm.
they're lucky. They're right place, right time. Some
Yes.
are good, so they bubble up, and then they 10 years sales success.
Making their number, yeah. Yeah. This is such an interesting topic, and it's what's funny is I wrote the book originally for CMOs, but the more conversations I'm having, the more this is applying to sales leadership, and why I am so excited to talk to you because more and more sales people are getting successful salespeople are being put in these sales leadership roles as CROs or whatever you want to call it, which in the past has been a horrible failure because the the idea was, well, I can't afford 2 executives and everything really bubbles up to the sales number anyway, so I'll put a CRO and not in every case, but in most cases, this is what I've seen.
Yep.
I'll put a career salesperson in that role and everything will be driven by the number. And the problem is that a lot of these sales leaders don't necessarily understand the digital environment we live in now and
Yeah.
how the customer and prospect behavior works and the technology. It's very operational.
Yeah.
Marketing is very technical and very operational. So without understanding that, they go back to work to what has worked for them in the past. So what has worked for them in the past are things that whatever they used at Cisco or
Yes.
whatever used to work at Dell, like I need events and I need industry conferences and I need you to bring balloons and pens and hats to this golf thing, And so they don't, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying they don't have the right tools. So if you don't have the right tools and you don't understand how it works, these poor people can't be successful. And so what is happening more and more, and my clients are more the sales leaders or the CROs that understand there's a gap and they want to better understand, like, how do I tackle these problems? And back to like the question you brought up in the beginning, common sense is sometimes solving these problems. It's not a genius. It takes discipline and an approach that is helpful. And so if you have an approach that's helpful to get everybody on the same page about what we're actually talking about and solving for, you can solve the problem together. But if you don't even know what those things are, you're sort of just kind of left to your own devices to make things up. And this is what's really sad for me is these sales leaders, they have such skill and potential to go beyond what they've been doing, but they haven't been given the resources to do it. But it's not rocket science. Like these things that I outlined in this book,
Yeah.
they're not, some like trademarked methodology. Like it's just like here's a way to approach it that's logical and makes sense and helps get consensus internally so you can get on with execution versus like debating it, which
Yeah.
goes back to my frustration originally and why I wrote the book in the first place. Is like, are we still debating this? Like, why are we debating this? Like, let's just get on with the issue of solving the problem and move on, because we have such big problems to solve. Like, with cybersecurity and AI and quantum, like we're just barely at the doorstep of what some of the things that are going to change. And we don't have time anymore to debate what is already best practices. And so, when I did the first draft of the book, my editor came back and she said, "You sound really angry." And I said, "I am angry. Like, can't we just like move on? Like, we need to get in the same boat together. We need to know what our destination is, and everybody needs to do their job, like do their jobs and know their role, and it's like sailing a boat. You have the rigger, you have the navigator, you have, all these different people that need to do these different things. But if you can't even have agreement on where you're going and how you're going to get there, it's really hard to do that. So, that's I think what is really, really critical is for, sales leaders or go-to-market leaders or CMOs who are aspiring to like have bigger roles in companies to get on the same page about what good looks like.
Yeah. I just figured out a new strategy.
What is it? Tell me.
I'm going to go to the nicest golf courses around during the week. I'm going to find every 40 to 55-year-old dude with a Rolex and a little bit of a pooch on his belly. And go, I bet you're frustrated with your salespeople making excuses, saying they need more technology, more gizmos, more whiz-bang features, and I bet they suck on the phone and are not making enough prospecting calls.
Or more leads. Or more leads.
And he's going to go, have we met? Are you spying on me?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go close deals on the golf course, but not even play. I'm going to walk along the driving range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. Probably anything to get on the driving range. It sounds like you love to golf. It's like me, an excuse to get on the water. So.
Yeah, if I won't even hit, I'll just walk around and go, hey, I bet your salespeople say they need more leads and they need more technology and they're not hitting their numbers. And you've got yo-yo pipelines and forecast super high, super low, and you can't make heads or tails out of
Mm-hmm.
it as to why you hit your numbers and why you missed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What a lot of companies, like I talk about the valley of transactions, and this is another, it's a related topic. I'll get there in a minute. But, most of the companies live in what I call the valley of transactions, which is they get bought, they merge with another company, they get purchased by a private equity firm who like squishes together five other companies. Then they get, peeled back because that doesn't work. And one goes public through a SPAC and the other one goes private to fix itself. And then they split apart again. Like this is how it works. Everybody, though, aspires to be the next Facebook or Google or fill in the blank company that is a standalone company, but only 1% to 2% of the companies ever get there. So businesses are at small to mid-sized B2B software companies mostly are acting like they're going to become this next big thing, which may be true, but it's more probable they're going to struggle because of this transactional nature of the industry. So if you're setting out to ultimately get bought or purchased by either a financial buyer or a strategic, you're going to need to bake in plans that account for a downturn, which is either economically excuse me, economically pressure from the outside, or your own, like you failed, miss your number, so you have to tighten it up. If that's the case, you would operate very differently than you would today. So a lot of companies come to me and they say, what we've been doing isn't working. We're stuck. We're losing customers. Or, our board, who's like made up of private equity people, they want to raise our prices. They're double our prices and half our customers are leaving. So even the investors are kind of applying these old playbooks and creating a negative outcome. And so the companies are saying, what I have been doing isn't working. I need to do something different, but I'm not sure what that is. And so if there's this like pressure to do something different, this is the time to take a look back to the fundamentals and making sure that people are aligned and understand where they need to go, as a team, as a holistic business. And this is the opportunity I feel that is just so amazing, that people can kind of take advantage of.
All right, you're giving me hope.
There is hope. There is hope, and it's not that hard.
I
It's like,
I know, but okay, it's not that hard to do, but it is hard to cut through the clutter and slap these people and go, no, you
yeah,
don't need those 6 different tools that this
yeah,
woman just wrote about to
yeah.
scam people become more human.
Mhm.
Fix your talk tracks.
Yeah,
Enter the conversation going on in the mind of the prospect, which David Ogilvy was writing about in the 60s.
exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So true.
Oh, what's some old guy, some patriarchal, misogynistic 3 martini lunch guy going to teach me today in the age of AI? Like how to be a human,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's so true. Just even having a market position and being authentic to your customers and prospects that is like, "Oh, you believe what I believe. Like you believe, this problem is going to be solved this way. I believe the problem is going to be solved this way. I just don't know how to solve it. Can you help me?" Like
Yeah.
that's all people want. They want to know that who they're working with has the same viewpoint on, how it should be approached or how long it should or shouldn't take and whatnot. But
Yeah.
chasing shiny objects is distracting from the point. I'll give you an example. Um, what's been astounding to me over the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years is because I help a lot of companies go through these transformations, right? A pivot, like retrenching, repositioning, turning around, whatever. And so the companies will be like, "Oh, we're in growth mode." And the board is like, "Yeah, we need to show, 60% growth in net new logos over whatever period of time. And you guys need to make it happen. And by the way, your cash flow needs to be X and the EBITDA needs to be Y, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And by the way, you have all this legacy baggage, that isn't even being addressed. Like the fundamental legacy technology that's running the business is broken." So they'll talk about, we need to grow like our competitor, who may be someone like, let's pick a company that's been really successful as a standalone company. So Okta comes to mind. Like they grew like gangbusters, and they had a good enough product at the right point in time, and then they grew from there. And it's just been amazing. But not every company has that opportunity, because you mentioned luck. Like some of it's luck, some of it's right place, right time, some of it's just right product market fit. At the right time, something else happens, and then people adopt the technology. But for most companies, it's hard work. And so they need to be able to look at what their real business situation is, which is another big premise of the book, is don't act like you're a market leader competing with market leaders when really you're a distressed company. Like, you need to turn this company around, which means you have to focus on your installed base. Like, that would be an approach. Or say you're in transition, you've been around a while, you may be an incumbent, the market isn't growing as fast, and you have a strong position, but you're kind of losing your position. You would do something different in that situation. So don't pretend like you're competing like a market leader, because you don't get to do that. You can't compete that way. You can't operate that way, because you have these other problems. And so being on the same page on what quadrant you're in is really, really important. And that's a basic, I didn't go to business school. Like, I'm a comms major with an English minor. Like, that, I'm a liberal arts person, by training. But in business school, they teach you these fundamental things that even the technologists and the CEOs and the investors and like these really smart people kind of haven't gotten right. And so, back to, it's not rocket science, but let's just get back to the fundamentals.
Yeah. I know. Are they listening? I guess they're listening, right? Because
I hope so.
sometimes you can't fix them,
Yeah,
right? You can't save every puppy in the pound, right?
you can't.
I mean, you
Where
get
the,
the, I call them internet bros, but they're
yeah,
also private equity bros.
yeah, yeah.
They just have this drive and this bang for the buck, and some can't fix.
Yeah, the thing is I'm an optimist, so I do believe problems can be fixed. This
Oh,
is
they can, but they
part
gotta
of my
they gotta
character
take the
defect.
medicine,
Yeah, but
right? It's like when you got a dog, right? And you
yeah,
pry their mouth open, jam the pill back in the throat, hold their snout, and rub their throat.
yeah, they're fighting it.
I can't make them do it.
They're
Well,
fighting it. And this is
literally
also,
I can, but I
yeah,
would get arrested.
this is part of the frustration though, because it's like if we could get out of our own way, we would be onto something. And I have a client I'm working with right now, and I won't name names. But the leadership team knows exactly what they need to do. The investors, the private equity group, doesn't want them to do that, because they haven't they don't have enough experience with these kinds of companies to see that, like, what worked maybe 5, 8, 10 years ago in terms of price gouging and price changes, to like make the business healthy, doesn't work anymore. Like, the creative financing and all that stuff, like, those days are over. Like, if you're an investor in a company and you want to sell that company for more than you bought it for, you have to get the basics right. And the
Yeah.
basics include things like investing in modernization, investing in unification, investing in more modern methods to reach your audiences in a simplified, streamlined, and very efficient way. But that's
Well,
boring. That's
okay.
boring. Like,
But does modernization, is that woman's post with the 7
no.
different,
Yeah, no,
what do
that's
you
not how
call
I think of it. Yeah,
modernization?
that's not how I think of it. What I think of when I think of modernization, I think of organizations that have grown up there. Let me take a step back. Let me answer the question first by saying this. There's three fundamental technology platforms that a company uses and has. The first one is the technology they sell. The second one is the core technology they run their business on. So think about ERP or CRM. And the third technology platform, most companies don't even know they have, which is how they engage with their customers and create that customer experience. The third one doesn't have a roadmap. doesn't have an owner, doesn't have a security strategy, and so instead what people are doing is they're just buying a bunch of tools virtually in the cloud with all this mess and integrating it and putting it on top of some of these siloed systems, say, the customer success system or the CRM system, which by the way, Salesforce was awesome back in the day, but it's been Frankenstein by most companies and so highly customized that nobody can use it right. So a
Yeah.
lot of my clients are like, oh, how do we, and I'm like, HubSpot might be, you might want to look at it. It looks, you're a small to mid-sized business. Like, do you need this huge, like Swiss Army knife of a CRM? Like, does that make sense? Again, and I'm not incentivized in any way by HubSpot. I just love their product, and they're doing wall to wall. They're doing marketing, sales, ops, and customer success across the board. So it's actually an awesome approach for the right person, the right company. So modernization to me means taking a step back, looking at the functions. Do the functions make sense the way they are with lines blurring? Number one. Number two, how do you have this third technology platform that is simple? People know how to use it. It's secure, and you can actually get value at it, and nobody's debating the reports or the dashboards and all this BS that happens, with people showing up to meetings with different fundamental numbers and how they made the metrics, right? And so that's the piece I'm talking about, is modernizing your mindset, modernizing the strategy, modernizing the tech stack. But I'm not saying add all these things. I'm saying simplify, look end to end, unify, and look at the go-to-market holistically. So, you need to really, that includes looking at workflow, looking at how people work together, looking at what the goals are. And you can take a lot of the debate out of this. And this sounds really, everybody talks about, oh, customer journey, but it's really, really important to look at how the customer wants to interact with you and your company. And sometimes they don't want to talk to a sales rep at all. Like, no offense to
Yep.
anybody, but that's just how people are.
Oh, I know.
And so if that's the case, how do you give them what they need in a frictionless way? Because the customer experience ultimately is going to be the differentiator. And the reason I think that is because there's so many software companies. If you really boil it down, there's like probably 20 other companies that do exactly what you do.
Yes.
And so the only thing that's going to make a difference is if you can make this frictionless, simple, can they get what they need? Are they supported well? Because software has bugs, like there's problems, and there's always going to be problems. So the best product doesn't always win. The good enough product, back to the Okta example in the beginning, the good enough product that's simple to adopt, easy to use, the people are nice. I'm not complaining because nobody can remember what I talked to them last about. These are the things that people care about.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. I mean, whoever can get the product in the customer's hands and solve their immediate need
Mm-hmm.
is going to win.
Yeah.
I've working with a tech company, and they were telling me like their process, and there were like 4 layers before a prospect could talk to a prospect. I'm like, when the lead comes in, why don't you just give it to the salesperson? Let them qualify them. What?
Yeah. Or a customer comes to your website, give them access to the product. Like, show them what it does. We have all of these like layers of, well, they have to be qualified, and they have to be pre-qualified. Then we have to add all this data, and then we have to like do a call down, and then they need to qualify, and then they need to set up a meeting, and blah, blah, blah. And like that doesn't work anymore. People don't have the patience or the attention span, frankly. And tech buyers are getting younger. Like
they are.
You and I are kind of on the back nine, using probably your terms, but the people that are buying the technology have a different expectation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do, but it's like, and it's a catch-22. Some technology needs a few pointers.
sure.
So you can optimize, because if you are changing the game, then maybe there's a couple of steps in there that aren't super obvious, because the prospect is coming at it from, I don't want to say a wrong frame of mind or frame of reference, but it's
Mhm.
just,
You need to
in
reframe the
rhetoric,
problem,
yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
we're just accustomed to doing something a different way, a certain way,
Mhm.
but we're not happy with it, so we go look for something else, but then that something else doesn't make sense because they have solved the problem, because they're coming at it from a different way, like, "Oh, I gotta go here, here, and here versus there, there, and there. Oh, now I get it." So it's, but I guess at the same time, then it's up to the marketing company, the leaders, to explain it in
Explain
such a
it.
way
Yeah.
that they can make that pivot, that paradigm shift, and
Mhm.
help the prospects. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I've, and as a reseller of a lot of different tools, I have seen that, but I also have sold a lot because I've addressed those issues. Like I'm a salesman first that
Yeah.
became an entrepreneur, that kind of became, I don't even want to, I'm not a techie, but I am tech verse, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like when you learn a language, like I can't understand if you talk too fast, but as long as you go slow, and I can't really write it.
Yeah.
I can speak it a little, but I can understand it, and then I can explain to you. Oh yeah, they're saying click the blue link, not the purple link.
Mhm.
And so I can relate to the humans that use the tool.
Totally. And fundamentally, I think what we're all trying to do here is find a match. You want to find a match for what your company does with what a problem someone need that someone has. You're not trying to pull the wool over anybody. You're not trying to bait and switch anybody for the most part.
Okay, well, yes, I beg to differ a little.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of salespeople are under the gun from on high, and crap rolls downhill,
I understand. Yeah.
and it's a lie by omission.
Mm,
Most W-2 salespeople, especially at tech firms, because I've sold HubSpot and Ontraport and Active Campaign and Infusionsoft,
mm-hmm.
ConvertKit, and blah blah blah. And a a sales rep will downplay, somebody go, well, we need to do SMS,
How hard an
and
integration is or something.
and
They'll
they don't
downplay
get
it. Yeah.
into, well, is it two-way SMS? Is it,
Yeah.
does each message, if it's over the character length, is it considered two messages, or is it a shared short code? Is that beneficial? Is that harmful? They'll just kind of downplay it,
Mm-hmm.
get the contract, then the customer's like, holy crap,
This is the problem.
this
Yeah.
is bad.
This is the problem. But that's not a salesperson's problem. That's a leadership problem.
Yes.
If you have a fundamental philosophy that you want it to be so your customers can't live without you, and you want your customers to love you, which is what every business
Should.
should be wanting,
Should.
then the most important thing is finding product market fit and aligned philosophy on how to solve the problem. Because if you sell somebody a solution that doesn't align to what their expectations are or what they think it does and all this stuff, you're going to have more problems that drain the resources of the business long term. Like
Yeah.
an example, this is like a dumb example, but
Long term is a key word.
yeah,
We're not long-term
I
thinkers.
know, I
We're not
know.
long-term thinkers in this country.
Well, but I think part of that has to do with, I'm going to make a strong statement here. A lot of companies are strategically lazy. Like if they're so focused on making the number, no matter where it comes from, that doesn't necessarily create a good outcome later. And
I
if
agree.
if you can say we can make our number because we can focus better with a better message, a better value proposition, and a more qualified market segment, it'll be, we'll spend less money acquiring customers. We'll spend less money servicing customers. We'll close more deals because they get what we're trying to say. And so like I think most of that problem could be solved. And I've seen this happen where customers actually focus on certain verticals or certain market segments or a certain set of needs or a certain way to solve a problem. They get really precise about who they're targeting. It just the conversions like start dropping from the sky. There's much more opportunities because you're focused on who the right fit is. And that's the biggest problem today is with a lot of these companies is they haven't sorted out product market fit. Startups have, because they've needed to do that to get their funding. But companies can lose their way after about 5 years because of this frantic nature of beating the number. They're like, get the number from anywhere. I don't care where you get it.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that doesn't work. It's not sustainable. So
I know.
I think that's the
I've seen it,
challenge.
though.
Yeah, I know.
I've suffered through it.
How do you think people can solve that? I mean, what are your ideas? What are you thinking?
Go to church. Get a conscience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, somebody has to put their foot down
Mm-hmm.
and go, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's been a while, but I mean, I worked for hardware companies in the tech space that shipped empty boxes in late December and then filled them later
Yeah.
to hit their numbers.
Yeah, that's an ethical
I
problem.
worked. It was the same company. They told me, the end of the year to fly. I was living in Austin at the time. They're like, fly up to Kansas City and sit in the lobby of this company until you find one of them that can sign off on something. And fortunately, my manager helped me kind of screen me a little bit, but I couldn't even fake it.
Yeah.
I had to make the trip so I could have the flight and the hotel and the rental car and the meals expense because I couldn't fake that.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, just fly up, sit in the hotel, fly back. I'm like, okay. So, I mean, I've lived it and I know that's still going on to this day.
Yeah.
So it's just painful. And I stayed with that company 6 months. It was
Yeah.
miserable.
This is the thing is people vote with their feet. And fundamentally, this is about the best talent. And all these companies are going to need all kinds of salespeople and all kinds of marketing people and all kinds of customer success people. And there's just not enough people ultimately.
Oh no, AI is replacing everyone.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I think fundamentally the good people are going to do what you did. The good people are going to go somewhere else. And so, people are going to vote with their feet enough to by the way, where did you live in Austin? I lived in Austin for a while.
That's top secret. You're
Oh,
gonna come
okay.
spy on me. And
No, are you there now or no?
no, we moved to Pflugerville first,
Okay.
and then we were there a year and a half and moved over. Technically, it was Round Rock.
Okay.
But we had an Austin address or off of 620,
Mm-hmm.
right on the border of Round Rock. My mom, she's still in Bastrop, so
Okay.
I get out there a couple times a year.
Cool. We used to live in Great Hills years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Austin's cool.
Yeah.
It was cool when
Well,
we were there.
it was cool.
Yeah. That's just changed a lot.
It's kind of a little too weird.
Yeah.
Keep Austin weird. Like,
Yeah.
make Austin less weird. That needs to be their
Make
new mantra.
make Austin less hot. That's why
Well,
it's
it's
so
hot. Holy crap. But just make it less weird. If they kind of embrace that a little too much.
Yeah.
Let's kind of dial that back a little bit. Go hit that bong a little bit more, people. Y'all gotta chill out. Oh, but I digress.
Cool. Yeah. So
Cool.
I
your
really
book,
go ahead.
where do we send people? I got your LinkedIn here. I'm linking to. I've got your surge-strategies.com. Is that where you want people to go?
Yes. So the book is really it's Power of Surge: 5 Ways to Supercharge Your B2B Software Business and Unleash Hidden Value. So it's a playbook. Like if you're struggling, if what you're currently working, if what you're currently doing isn't working, and you need to try something else, it's just a very practical, risk-free, and immediate approach for you to be able to take action to get more strategically aligned across your go-to-market, marketing, sales, customer success. What I'm really excited about, and you're the first place I've announced this, is I'm going to be launching a challenge. So it's called the Surge Challenge. And the Surge Challenge takes the principles outlined in the book, and you can actually join the challenge and apply your own business to these frameworks in, it's kind of an 8-week, but it's self-paced. Like if you're an overachiever, you want to do it in 1 week, you can do that. But the idea is to put these principles in action. And again, as we talked about, like none of this is rocket science. It's just providing the discipline to solve some of these problems, and that's my only aspiration. So the idea behind it is, if you're a CRO, if you are a sales leader who now is trying to take a broader approach to addressing the business, if you're a aspiring CMO, if you are a go-to-market leader, or you aspire to be one longer term in your career, this just gives a good foundation for how to perhaps think about how to address the go-to-market in today's changing environment. So thank you for having me. I'm really excited about the challenge, and I hope people can learn more and join, and shoot me an email if you're interested.
So where do they get info on the challenge? Is it at the surge-strategies?
Yeah, there's two links on the page. One is about the book, so you can learn more about that. And by the way, the Audible version, which it took me a long time because I wanted to narrate it myself personally.
Nice. Yeah.
I got that done a couple weeks ago, so that should go live any day now on Audible if you want to hold out for that. And then there's another link called the Search Challenge on my website, and you can save yourself a seat. So if you're interested in joining, you can see how to do that on my website. It's no obligation to save a seat. I'd love for you to sign up, but more importantly, I want to be able to send you more information.
This is a cool shot. Is that your boat? I take it.
There's some pictures of the boat across my website. On my homepage, that's actually a boat I did a passage on. It was a Swan 59, which is a monohull. It's pretty rockin' monohull. I did a passage from Key West to Bermuda on that, which was my first passage.
Oh,
But this
wow.
past year, my husband and I crossed the Atlantic Ocean. So we brought
Alone? Like you two?
we had two other people on board.
Okay.
His daughter was one of them, and she doesn't have any sailing experience. So it was really great. She was 22 years old. And then we had another skipper on board who was specific to the boat, so that she helped train us across the ocean. Nikki Henderson. So she's
You went across the Atlantic.
Yeah, we went from funny story as we close. We sailed the boat from the south of France all the way to Martinique. We got to Martinique with we had some things. We had like a water ingress. We had to sail a window, and we had a steering problem, and we dodged the orcas through Gibraltar Strait and all that. But we get to Martinique and we drop the anchor. We don't even have our fenders out yet, and we get T-boned by a boat, and a huge hole in our brand new boat gashed through the side. They had to lift us out of the water, and we spent 3 weeks getting it fixed before we sailed up to Miami and then the Bahamas. So it was pretty interesting season. That was last season.
So, did you buy the boat in France? Like you fly out there and then sail it back?
Yeah, we got the boat in France, and we kind of did some shakedown and did some other things, and then we sailed it across. Yeah.
Holy crap! And how long does that take?
The passage from the Canary Islands to Martinique was 16 days, and the harder passage was actually from the south of France to the Canary Islands. That was harder because the weather was worse. It was in the November timeframe. It was upwind. It was really bad waves, and then of course through Gibraltar Strait, we were really freaking out because the orcas are attacking boats, which you probably have read about.
No, I have not.
Yeah.
Why are they attacking boats?
No one knows, but they're saying 80% of the boats that go through Gibraltar Strait are they're calling them interactions. They're not calling them attacks. They're calling them interactions. So the orcas come and they basically rip off the rudder. They've sunk a couple boats actually. So,
what?
Yeah, it's kind of, that's the scariest part. You're going through there and you're like, are we going to get attacked by, orcas are huge and they're smart,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And anyway, so sailing's fun, but yeah, it's full of adventure.
Interesting. So,
and I talk about sailing in the boat too. Like, so those are some of the analogies I use. So just to make it fun, and it's an interesting topic to me, but
there's no like real cruise control on a sailboat, right? Somebody's got to be watching it.
Yeah, when you're crossing an ocean, a lot of people say, "Well, where do you anchor?" It's like, no, there's no anchoring.
No anchor.
So there's night watches. So everybody has you have a watch schedule, and everybody's on for a certain period of time. Like during the day, it's 4-hour watches. At night, it's 3-hour watches, and
Mm.
so everybody has to kind of be on watch. We do have an autopilot, so the autopilot kind of keeps you pointed at the same. You can do your autopilot by wind or by direction, and it keeps it kind of in the same place. But the sails are big and the boat's powerful, and our boat goes is sporty. It goes a little fast, so it's important to kind of keep on top of it.
Mm. I mean, I've done open water swims, 3.5 miles,
Oh yeah, yeah.
so like I'm not afraid of the water, but I don't know, crossing
Well,
an ocean. I mean, that's like a little
yeah,
different.
yeah. I mean, and I have this thing for oxygen, so breathing is always a bonus. I
I
know.
mean, it helps.
Yeah, and I'll say I'm not afraid of the water, but it's definitely scary. There's times that are scary. And Mother Nature as well. Like the ocean, what's fascinating to me about the ocean is it can be just so calm and serene and peaceful, and you're like, "Oh, this is wonderful. Let me meditate." And then sometimes you're like, "Oh my God, we're all gonna die." Like the fury and anger, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. We were actually in. I'm digressing, but we were in Tobago for Hurricane Beryl.
Mm.
So we were coming down. We came down because they say if you come down, the hurricanes go past more north, and it was
Right.
coming through. And so we had to leave, and we went to Trinidad along with like 2,000 other boats that were coming south. And we were like, oh my God, this is a Cat 5 hurricane. Like this is some serious business. So yeah, we didn't expect that, but
So why'd you go to Martinique and not like Nova Scotia or Boston?
well, you have to cross. You have to get across the ocean, and
You
so
got to follow the winds.
so the best way to do that, they say, go when you leave the Med, go south until the butter melts, and then hang a right. And like that's how sailors talk about it. Where you end up is sort of wherever you end up having the best wind. And so in our case, we landed in Martinique, but we went all the way up to Miami, and then we came back down and we did the Bahamas, and then we sailed upwind 1,000 miles and ended up in Trinidad, which is just north of Venezuela. So it's actually the farthest south you can go in the Caribbean. But we did that because I don't like the cold. So
And how did you get the boat to Tahoe?
no, the boat's not in Tahoe. It's in Trinidad. I'm in
So,
Tahoe.
so you keep it there.
Yeah, yeah, that's where it is. So I could talk
You,
about boats all day, Wes.
you got to
So
fly
like
out
we
to
might
visit
need
your
another
boat.
podcast to talk
You got to
about.
fly out to visit your boat.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, for sure.
No, but I mean you do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then what do you do? Do you just like cruise around the Caribbean or?
Well, this next season we're going to spend some time out there. What's amazing is I started my consulting business by accident on our previous boat. So what had happened is the company that I was working at, we did a carve out, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to take a sabbatical. We're going to like do some boating and this kind of thing. And suddenly I started getting CEOs and some of my friends who are executives calling me saying, here you're available. Like, can you help me transform the go-to-market or reposition the brand or help me get us operationally organized. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm on a boat in the Med with like barely any Wi-Fi, so I can't hear you really well. I can't hear you really well. And they're like, no, it's fine, just help me out. And I was like, okay, sure. So I started Surge Strategies from a boat, and then COVID hit, and so then everybody got used to remote work. And
Yeah,
then this amazing technology was introduced called Starlink, which basically
it's pretty cool, huh?
gives us internet from everywhere. So when we are there, I can, I still do work and I still do things. And the course is going to, the challenge is going to be amazing too, because that's also something, definitely that's set up for that. So, yeah, so that's how it works.
Very cool.
Yeah.
A woman of many talents. But do you do jujitsu? That's it. Okay, never
No,
mind.
I don't do
Okay.
jujitsu or
It's hard to
golf.
do jujitsu on a boat. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. I do yoga. Does that count?
Kind of. Well, they call what there's a couple of funny things. It's like See, jujitsu is like doing laundry, like folding your laundry with the human still wearing the clothes. And it's something else about yoga. It was funny. It's like, oh, yeah, it's
Yeah. My nephew does jujitsu, so when I'm going to visit him this weekend, and he always does his little moves on it. He has a dummy. He has like my mom made him
yeah,
like a dummy doll or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. I want to get one of those because that's how I was saying about YouTube. Like you watch stuff, but until you go hands on, the stuff just doesn't. It doesn't compute.
Yeah.
Like golf, you can swing in the air, but it's like put the club in your hand and make the swing.
Yeah.
Focusing on, even if you're just hitting your carpet, focus on a spot because
Mm.
everything feels good when you're not really aiming.
Mhm.
So having that dummy helps.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm gonna get one.
Mm.
So all right, well, cool. We'll go on forever.
I
Holly
know.
Rollo,
If you ever
all
want to
the
talk
way.
about boats again, you can just give me a call. Uh,
Hey, I know. I don't know much about them. So you're gonna be my go-to. You're gonna be my go-to
phone a friend
market,
for any boat
my
problem.
go-to boater, GTB. We're gonna
That's funny.
GTS, not GTS. I think it's a car. So GTB. You're my go-to boater. Is
Okay,
that
cool.
fair?
Thank you. That's awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Wes, for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been fun to
It was
talk to you.
great seeing you. Have a great day.
Okay, bye.